up-and-comer player from the Chattanooga area, and he's very thoughtful, and I think he's going to provide you some excellent advice tonight, which is what we all need in this game. So he's going to talk about why you're not an expert, but how you become one, I think, right?
More or less.
More or less. More than less. So anyway, without any further ado, let me introduce Jack Gillespie to you. So, there you go.
Sure, put this back in the holder.
Back in the holder. Okay.
Yep. I'm one of those. All right, so everybody can hear me, right?
Yeah.
All right, so raise your hand if you're not an expert. Okay, good. So we don't have to deal with anybody's big ego. That's good. I'm not either, but what you're here to learn is not how to do any signaling or how to do any specific skill. You're here to learn how to actually play bridge. All right, that's why I got the boards in front of you. That's why I suggest that you make sure everybody's in the foursome so we can start. Just go ahead and pick up the first hand. So the key today is I'm going to teach you how to think about everything that you see. And when you start learning how to make certain inferences, you'll start understanding why those people who are beating you all the time are beating you. Because bridge isn't just a game about knowing what your bids mean, or what your partner's signals mean, or anything like that. It's none of that nonsense. It's about being able to see what did they do, and what does that imply I should do, or what did they not do? What does that imply I should not do? Real quick, since we have a little time. You probably can't see those, but I'm just going to tell you the same three things. What this boils down to, guys, is understanding what was done, what will happen, and what must not be or must be possible for you to either make the contract or to set their contract, right? Because how many people in here have been playing in pairs events? Okay, a good lot of you. How many people have been playing teams events? Just about everybody. So in teams, all you're trying to do is either set or make your contract. This is going to be kind of like what the presentation is today. If you're playing in pairs, you're usually doing that too. You might be looking for an over trick every now and then, but the idea is just the same. You want to be able to look at a hand and understand what your partner and what your opponents are doing, what they've shown in the bidding, and what's going on, right? You hear it called card sense. That's kind of what we're looking at today. So north-south end up in 4 spades in this first hand, okay? And those of you who are sitting west, what would you lead?
Okay.
King of Hearts, any other votes? Your vote for King of Hearts? Okay, I agree. The King of Hearts is the best way for you to set up a fast trick, right? It's your stronger sequence. That's pretty normal. So we're going to go ahead and lead the King of Hearts. I want all of you to put down the King of Hearts and show dummy, right? And we're going to kind of walk through step by step here like we're playing an actual bridge hand. Those of you in the back, if you want to pull up a chair and kibitz, go right ahead. If you're comfortable where you are, that's fine too. Yeah. So I'm going to briefly explain the auction you had here, just so we can kind of continue with our thinking. You'll arrive at the same conclusion whether you get all the details or not. So South's opening has shown that he has exactly 4 spades and some longer minor suit. Okay? He still has normal opening values.
5 spades.
No, in this example it's 4, but you'll find out that it won't really matter for the purposes of thinking. I'm just showing this to be complete. Okay? Because I had to have South play this hand, and it took forever to find a normal auction to do it. Okay? So West leads the King of Hearts and dummy shows up. So before we play the first trick, what are your thoughts as West? How are you going to set this hand? And don't be afraid to say the first thing that comes to your mind, because that's usually how this works. Okay, so the clubs might be a source of tricks, right? Okay, I agree. It looks trick worthy. Any other ideas? Don't be shy. This is open discussion. We're going to talk about everything here. I just want to hear how you're thinking now.
You want to rub a diamond at some point.
Okay, that's a possibility, right? So maybe partner can, get in and play a couple high diamonds, and we'll rough some diamonds. That's possible too. Are there any other ideas? Promoting the hearts. I agree. So we kind of have 3 ideas, right? And that's without thinking about what partner could have or anything like that. So when I look at this dummy here, you guys can see it at your tables. You know that your first heart isn't going to win, obviously. You have a possible finessing position in clubs. That's all pretty straightforward. Diamonds are sort of unclear. And that's really all you can draw from this at this point. You know, for South's opening, you know partner has 3 spades. You know, South is 4, North is 4, and you have 2, right? But other than that, there's really not a whole bunch else to go on here. So we're going to go ahead and play the first trick.
Do you know maximum points possibly for your partner? About?
Not necessarily. I mean, let's see. You're looking at 9, and dummy has 10, and South has 11. So, you know, 9 best case scenario.
Should solve them at least.
Right. But that's something you do want to think about is, you know, where are all the points? You know, what can partner have and not have? Okay, so on the first trick, dummy wins with the ace. East plays the 9 of hearts, and South plays the 3. Okay.
Why is East playing the 9 of hearts?
It's encouraging. If you're looking at East's hand, East doesn't particularly want to switch. All right, so this, go ahead and turn the cards. So second trick, declare leads a 10 of diamonds. East plays the 9. South plays the 6. Now Wes, before you play this trick, okay, what do you think's going on? Have you learned anything? It's okay if you haven't. I'm just curious.
The East wants you to continue hearts.
Jack, queen, king.
No, the 9 of diamonds is can keep going.
So there's a lot to learn just in the second trick, okay? First of all, partner wanted us to continue hearts. We might infer that partner doesn't really want us to switch to any other suit, right? Because the ace of hearts is in dummy and we're looking at all the others. Partner may or may not have a doubleton heart. It's unclear at this point. The 9 of diamonds, as was mentioned up here, you know, for most people shows count, so we can assume partner has an even number of diamonds. But I want you to think about not the specifics. Those are all, we would call them positive inferences. Those are things that you just know by definition, right? You know, you have a count signal, that's what it means. I want you to think about what declarer has done. What did declarer play on the second trick? Okay, declarer's played on the diamond suit. What does that tell you? Okay, so there's...
They might get rid of your hearts on
They
their
got a
diamond.
rough from 9.
Right, so number 1, declarer looks like declarer's finessing the suit, right? If declarer had a bunch of cashing diamonds, they might have started by playing ace, king, queen or something, right? It looks like declarer is finessing this diamond for some honor in partner's hand. That's kind of implied inference number 2. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So there's something that should strike you as odd though about this play. Can anybody tell me?
Didn't lead Trump.
Thank you. Why did declare not lead trumps? Because they're not very good. They're crossed. Those are all acceptable answers, right? Where do you think the spade honors are on this hand?
South.
They won't be in South because if you were sitting South, you would probably run your trumps and then play on the diamonds, right? Because I wouldn't want some surprise ruff if my trumps are all strong. Does that kind of make sense? That's what we call a negative inference. So since declarer didn't play on the trump suit, he can't have any holding that it would make sense for him to do so. Does that make sense? Yes. This is assuming that your declarer is a rational, competent player, which I like to think most of us are. And if you think it matters, just remember, the last time that klutz played 4 spades against you, you got a top board no matter what you did, right? So you assume people know what they're doing. And so we're going to play the 4 on the second trick. So the next trick, declarer leads the diamond to the jack.
Diamond to the jack.
He leads the diamond to the jack.
So declarer leads the diamond to the jack. There's nothing new, right?
What did we play on?
So after declarer plays the diamond to the jack, he cashes the ace of clubs. Now before Wes plays again, is there anything that looks odd?
Still not playing Trump.
First of all, still not playing trumps, so it's not like declarer could just finesse the diamonds, draw trumps, and then their diamonds are good. So that means partner probably has honor 4th of diamonds, right? You know, something like, you know, king 4th, You know, because if declarer had, say, ace, king, jack 10, fifth, or whatever, then they could just play on trumps and go about cashing his diamonds, right? So leading the ace of clubs now, especially when you have all that club strength, it looks like declarer probably is short in clubs and is trying for some sort of like partial cross route. Does that make sense? And again, this is a negative inference. It's not something that would jump out at you immediately because it's not something that's from like definition. You know, South didn't promise a singleton ace of clubs in the bidding. You figure that out because, well, he just didn't do any of the other alternatives. Does that make sense? Okay? This isn't a convention, this is common sense. Okay? So, on this trick, West plays the queen, North plays low, East plays the 2, and my screen moves like crazy. And now South leads the ace of diamonds. What should West play on this trick? Anybody? You gotta vote for a heart. Anybody else? 9 of spades. Anybody else?
2 of spades?
2 of spades. Anybody else?
9.
So if you played the 9 of spades, why did you play the 9 of spades? What's your plan?
Take away the entry.
Entry to what, though? That we're always getting up to the board to get the king of clubs, right? There's no winners in dummy. Partial credit, you do want to get rid of the king of spades, but why? What is your goal? Your cross, that's partial credit. That's what they're doing, but is there any, what do we gain from playing the 9 of spades as opposed to, say, the 2, or pitching a heart? It promotes partner's trump. Very good. So we're thinking that partner has probably the ace of spades and, you know, maybe like the queen 10, because South can't have 2 spade honors. He would have played on trumps in some form or fashion before going on diamonds, right? So when you play the 9 of spades, you're trying to force declarer to eventually lose trump control. This is when you have to think about the bidding. So because South's opening shows 4 spades and some longer minor, at this point we figure that South has 4 spades and 5 diamonds, right? Because he was playing on diamonds all those times. Partner we think is king 4th, so we started with 2 and dummy started with 2. Does that make sense? We know 9 of declarer's cards. Basically, South is going to have to eventually lead a heart to us, and what we want to do is eventually, anybody? Lead a trump. Very good. Does that make sense? Anybody confused at this point? Okay, good. So, you correctly ruff with the 9 of spades. And dummy overruffs with the king. And now declarer cashes the king of clubs, pitching a heart.
You trump that.
And after the king of clubs is cashed, declarer roughs a club. And now South leads the 7 of diamonds.
You're ahead of us.
That's all right. Take your time.
After the king of clubs, was it a club?
A club is rough. And now South leads a diamond.
Is it the queen of diamonds?
It's irrelevant which diamond.
Oh, okay.
Which diamond?
We'll say the 7. So what does West do?
8 of clubs.
How many people rough the 7 of diamonds is West? Okay, good. That's what you should want to do here. It's not rough. Because remember, you want to eventually lead a trump to partner. So if you rough now, you just kind of defeated the purpose of roughing earlier. Does that make sense? It's very easy to lose track of your goal, which is why it's important to always be paying attention and counting everything. Because if you don't have a goal as a defender or a declarer, you will instantly play worse than you probably could. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It seems simple, but, you know, don't be stupid. Like, just you have to have a plan. So West here pitched a heart, and don't worry about playing the rest of this out because eventually West gets in with a heart and is able to lead a trump to East, who's holding this. Okay. So down 1. Any questions on this? This seems like a fairly straightforward hand whenever we talk about it together, but it's something that people miss all the time. And whenever declarer doesn't play on trumps, it usually means that he doesn't have any to lead, right? They're not good enough. So we're going to move to the second hand, so go ahead and take out the second hand in your set there. It'll be the middle one. Okay, and this one is more of a declare play problem. So those of you who like to play the hand, you'll get a taste of that. Okay. Alright, so we all got our cards out for the second hand. South declares 4 spades through a fairly normal auction after East passes, and West leads the 9 of diamonds. So go ahead, lead the 9 of diamonds at your table, let dummy show, etc.
South is at 4 spades?
Yeah, South is playing 4 spades.
What's the one with the...
Yeah, I'll explain that here in a second. It's another one of those where basically I just had to finagle the bidding so that South declared, because, you know. Okay, so if you're curious, North's response was by agreement a transfer to spades. It's something you see maybe 1 or 2 pairs here do. You know, don't worry about that. It's not relevant to the discussion just as much as that South is playing 4 spades, okay? I had to finagle this so it was an honest deal. So, declarers and people who are looking at South's hand as a defender, tell me what you think about this contract.
The spades are very nice.
Okay, I agree. Spades are a source of tricks. Clubs are good. Yeah. Partial credit. Yeah, kinda. Right? Because we need to finesse something. It'd be nice.
Extra trouble.
Okay. We're all sort of circling around a thing that, based on the opening lead, should be pretty obvious. Can anybody tell me what that is?
You might lose 3 diamonds in a heart.
You could lose 3 diamonds in the heart. Does anybody not understand why that's the case? West's 9 of diamond lead is probably from shortness. It would be weird if West led the 9 from, say, Queen 10-9 or underleading the ace. So we figure East is both of those cards. Can we agree on that? So if East is both of those cards and West is shortness, the first 3 tricks are probably going to go Queen of diamonds, Ace of diamonds, Ruff of diamonds. Does that make sense? You can see 3 tricks ahead because I said so, right? Because you can see the cards and place them, you know, with your opponents respectively. Does that make sense? So, out of curiosity, does anybody notice something else kind of odd? Okay, that's fine. We're going to play the first trick, first 3 tricks. And if you can't guess, Queen of diamonds, Ace of diamonds, West pitches the Queen of clubs. And now East leads a 3rd diamond for West to ruff.
What's the first trick?
First trick, the 9 of diamonds was led to the Queen, which holds, and then East plays Queen of diamonds, Ace of diamonds, and another diamond ruffed. By agreement it does, but today's discussion really isn't about that. We want to focus on what the declarer is thinking. So, that said, I want to ask the question I asked earlier again. Does anybody notice something odd?
No preempt. East never pairs.
Who said no preempt? Very good. So, if you noticed, West pitched on the second trick, right? So West started with how many diamonds? That leaves East with how many diamonds? So what good players do is when they see the cards that are actually held by their opponents, which here you can deduce logically, East started with Ace, Queen, 6 of the diamonds. That's kind of strange, isn't it? East passed. No 2 diamond opening. That's weird, right? So what are some reasons that East would not open to preempt? 3 or 4 of a major. Any other ideas? You could be too strong to open. You might have other agreements, but the big two are having a side major and having opening values. East can't have opening values because he passed, right? So we figure East probably has some 4-card major. Does that make sense? Now, which major is it? It's hearts, absolutely. And if you weren't sure, remember that West roughed this trick here. So East can't have 4 spades. Does that make sense? We already know 10 of East's cards and West's distribution of those suits by corollary just in the first 3 tricks. Isn't that kind of interesting? And this isn't hard, you just have to think about it and be aware. So my question to you is, who has the Queen of Hearts? East. Okay. How many people think it's East? How many people think it's West? How many people don't know?
East added, you have opening count.
We're going to get to that. So I want West to lead the 9 of clubs. And now East is going to play the 3. South winning. And now South, I want South to lead a low club and rough it and dummy. Now what is East going to play on this trick? Okay, so if you're East, you know what you're going to play. But as declarer, do you know that East is going to play the king on this trick? You absolutely do. Absolutely. And if he doesn't in this trick, it'll be the next one. Remember that West threw the Queen of Clubs earlier, right? If West said king, queen, whatever, they'd throw the king. Because you got to be an accurate defender and show partner what you got. For the same reasons that, you know, when you're a good declarer, you make sure that, you know, dummy's cards are right. So, East throws the king of clubs in this trick. Now, as the point was made earlier, East has shown the ace of diamonds, the king of clubs, and the queen of diamonds, right? That's 9 points. If East had a hand with the queen of hearts as well, that's a pretty distributional 11 count. Just about everybody in this room would open this. And if you don't, you should read, what is his name? Larry Cohen's book on the law of total tricks. Okay? And your mind will be changed. But needless to say, East is going to open with all those honors, right? So South can draw trumps, do whatever at this point. But who is he going to finesse for the heart? Who's he going to finesse for the heart? Why?
Because all the points so far have been in the east.
Okay, elaborate a little further. I like what you're thinking, but I just...
Well, he's got long diamonds, he's got some clubs, he's got a couple spades probably, so he can't hit any hearts. And he also showed up with a whole lot of points, so if he had a queen of hearts, he probably would have.
Right. Does that make sense? This is a good hand because it's a conflict that I see people have all the time. Sometimes you'll finesse somebody because they have more length in the suit, right? And they're more likely to have that card. This is a situation where East actually had more hearts than West, but we knew to finesse West per our reasoning. We counted out East distribution, what cards he has, and we considered that if East had the Queen of Hearts, what he would have done in the bidding, which wasn't passing, it was opening, right? East didn't preempt because of his shape, but he also didn't open because he doesn't have opening values. Does that make sense? So experts would win the ace of hearts here and finesse if they hadn't claimed earlier. Does anybody have any questions on this? I know we went through it kind of fast. But just like the last hand, the point is the same, where we're not really doing anything super complicated. We're just taking all of our little facts and putting them together. So it starts on the opening lead, which is why I suggest to everybody, and I know you've heard this 1,000 times, but for God's sakes, take a minute at trick 1 and think. Because if you do that, you'll force yourself to see these positions that came up, right? At the first trick, we knew that East had the ace-queen, you know, either 5th or 6th of diamonds. And you might already start to guess, well, that's kind of weird. Why didn't East preempt? And then it just gets worse whenever West shows out and throws the queen of clubs. At trick 2, you should know where the queen of hearts is. So you could apply the same reason. If you don't believe me, I'll show you a place to look at the hands later. But does that thought process make sense? I promise you can do this on every single hand, so you'll get a lot of practice. And when you do, you'll thank me later, because occasionally you'll find a really brilliant play that you wouldn't have found otherwise. That's the nice thing about making inferences. It's like being Sherlock Holmes. So this last hand I want you guys to play yourselves, and then we're going to talk about it. Okay, so South is declaring 6 diamonds, and the auction here, is really irrelevant. We could say that South is declaring through no fault of his own. I want West to go ahead, literally play this hand like you would if you were playing out there, and we're going to discuss what should happen. Okay, so take a few minutes and play this. West is on lead.
Yeah, 6 diamonds.
You don't need to know the auction. You do not. South is playing 6 diamonds and West is on lead. Don't worry about 2 hearts. Just play out the hand. I promise you don't need to know what it means. If you did, I would tell you.
No, it's down.
Unless I was being mischievous. Maybe I should do that sometimes and just mess with people. I don't know. I like that idea. So the majority of us are pretty close to done, if not finishing up. So those of you in the middle of play, how many of you made 6 diamonds? How many people here made 6 diamonds? Or know they're going to make 6 diamonds? How many people went down? 1. How many people went down? 2. Okay, good. You never know. So go ahead and look up here. You can look at your hands for reference as well, whatever's easier for you. West at the time led the 4 hearts, okay? And so when declarer looks at this hand, basically the trouble is that, you know, we have to take 2 finesses, right? We got the club finesse to deal with, and we got the diamonds to deal with. You know, we can only the diamonds, we have a choice. We can drop the queen or finesse, and normally it's right to finesse. The clubs, you know, we're always going to finesse this. So what declarer did is he won the heart lead with the ace and pitched a spade, right? And now he led the queen of clubs. The thinking here is that if the club finesse loses, you know, then you just play diamonds the way you're supposed to play them. If it holds, you kind of have a guess at which way you can finesse things, and it's a pure guess. So West wins with a club and exits a heart, south roughing. So my question to you is, because you've lost a club, how do you play on diamonds? How many people here are playing the ace and king of diamonds? Handful. How many people here are finessing the jack of diamonds? How many people are finessing the 9 of diamonds? How many people don't know and just want the answer? Usually I get a couple hands. Okay, so here's the thinking. So I want to switch to West's hand for a moment, okay? So I'm going to back up a couple tricks. So if you look at West's hand in this position, West has got a funny problem. So West can see that the king of clubs here is a winner, right? And if the declarer finesses the diamond, then the diamond queen is probably going to be a trick too, right? Now, since you got 7 points and they bid a slam, East probably is not going to contribute a whole lot to this defense. Can we agree on that? I could talk specifically about that, but out of general principle, it's not going to happen. So, what do you think West wants declarer to do? Yeah, we want declarer to finesse. So we're going to make it as easy as possible for declarer to take that finesse, right? Because another way to think about this is if West didn't have the queen of diamonds, West would try to put South in the lead somehow. You know, you might lead a club and hope that South is, you know, double an ace or something. You know, West makes some effort to get South stuck in his hand, but you know, not the case. So going back to South, the reason that discussion was important is because as a good declarer, you can use this as a defender too. You want to put yourself in your opponent's shoes. It helps you think about what their problems are and what the layout of the hand is. The inference that South should make here is that West just kind of didn't care. He just kept leading hearts, right? And so you should be able to drop the queen of diamonds on this hand because West didn't really try to do anything to stop you from getting the dummy, right? That's kind of the inference on this hand. Does that make sense? That one's a little more difficult. And part of this is because we have to require West to know what to do here. Because let's say West just was, you know, West didn't care. You wouldn't be able to draw this inference. But then you're at a guess.
I have a trick question. When the 8 of spades is led, I'm thinking he's leading low from an honor. Would that be the wrong inference?
It really depends on the contract and the situation. Normally you don't really worry about making the inference there because you can look at the hand as a whole and say, I have a plan for 10 tricks.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you got any further questions, you can come see me, but I know most of us have got to go to a game, but you guys can access these online. If you're interested in that, let me know, but otherwise, good luck.
Yes, please give Jack a very warm thank you for the work. He put a lot of effort and energy into putting all this together for you, so I hope it was it was a lot learned.